Though the Texans finished with the second worst record in the NFL and are pretty much just a meme for most people, they aren't actually a bad spot for a rookie quarterback. Before we delve into that, though, if you could very quickly like and subscribe, as they'd both make a massive difference and cost you nothing. Starting out on their Playmakers, they actually have a pretty good mix of talent, and it's led by Brandon Cooks, who is not guaranteed to be on the team, but I think is like 50-50 on if he will or will not. And beyond him, there's Nico Collins, who is a big bodied receiver, which meshes nicely with the smaller frame of Brandon Cooks. And on top of that, they have Damian Pierce, who was an elite running back for them as a rookie. So they have some talent in place. And beyond that, John Mechie may be coming to the offense too after his battle with leukemia. So they have some receivers in place, which is not a guarantee for a team picking highly, the Chicago Bears. Looking at their offensive line, it was a bit of a mess last year, but that had more to do with Justin Britt missing a ton of time and Kenyon Green struggling mightily as a rookie to the tune of being ranked PFF's worst guard. I think it's reasonable to expect regression towards the mean for injuries towards Justin Britt because he's been healthy for much of his career. And I also think it's fair to say that Kenyon Green was a highly regarded guard coming out, and it would be a bit odd if he was so highly touted and just ended up being a complete disaster. So maybe you want to add a piece on the offensive line just to feel a bit more reassured that a new quarterback won't be having a disaster at offensive line, but I think there should be internal development on the offensive line that helps them mightily. Moving to the defensive side of things, that's where this team is going to be made or broken. And I'm actually kind of optimistic for it because I think D'Amico Ryans might be the next best up-and-coming defensive mind. But they have some talent on their roster as well that it's not just going to have to be Ryans uplifting bad players and making them look like stars. They actually have some stars, believe it or not. The Texans have a budding defensive line. I wouldn't feel safe in saying that it will be great for them, but I also don't think it's ridiculous to see continued development. And what they have brewing right now is Ogbania Okoronkwo having a top 30 edge grade by PFF grade in back-to-back years. And in addition to that, Malik Collins is a good interior pass rusher, and Jonathan Grenard is quietly a pretty nice edge rusher. He ranked 11th last year in PFF grade. This year he was a bit disappointing, but he was also dealing with some injury issues. So it's hard to say exactly what they have, but one thing's for sure, they're not a disaster on the defensive line by any stretch, and they're actually pretty good on that front, I would say, especially when you consider they're a top 2 pick team. Finally, for their positives, they actually have a pretty nice cornerback room as well, believe it or not. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, they just drafted Derek Stingley very highly, so surely he's just been showing out and that's that. That's not the case. In reality, Derek Stingley was actually rather disappointing this year and couldn't seem to put it together, but much like with Kenyon Green, I think he was highly touted enough as a prospect that You're not rushing to get rid of him. You're still seeing what you have in him. And I think that top end, best corner in years prospect is still possibly what Derek Stingley will turn into. And in addition to that, they have some pretty good vets in Steven Nelson and Desmond King. So if they can see some development in Stingley, which is, again, pretty reasonable to expect, they actually might have a really nice corner room moving forward. Though I've been rather positive of the Houston Texans to this point, that's not to act like they don't have their faults, because they very much do deserve to be picking in the top two. I have listed their positional needs, which, as you can see, are pretty much every position. So, though they are good in some spots, they do definitely have the characteristics of most bad teams in that they just are an incomplete roster. Fortunately for Houston, though, it's not that they're bereft of possible solutions. In fact, they have multiple avenues to improve, and that's nice because in the draft they have 2 first-round picks and 2 thirds, so they have ammunition that way, but also they will have salary cap opening up for them moving forward. If you would like to see what I would do as a GM, I will be doing mock drafts and mock off-season moves for every team, so be sure to subscribe for content like that.